I believe that there's no need to have a billionaire in a world with over 800 million people suffer for hunger. It's a moral failure as a society, but I'm sure that we need to limit the wealth that we have.
Hi, welcome to Equals, the podcast about inequality. I'm Grazielli.
Hello, I'm Naf. Welcome to Equals. Grazie, it feels like it's been a while since we did an episode together, no?
Yes, it's true. The entire summer vacation for you and winter vacation for me.
I love that you think I was like in a summer vacation. I was in Ethiopia since end of July to recently.
Oh, really? So we were on the same weather vacation. And today we have quite an interesting episode, right?
Definitely. We're going to talk about how much wealth is too much wealth and the role of the super rich in both generating and embedding inequality, but also, as we will hear in this episode, in tackling it.
Yes, and we are really excited to be publishing our second interview on the question of how much wealth is too much wealth. The first one was 2 weeks ago when Max and I did an interview with Ingrid Robeyns, who is such a strong advocate for a wealth cap.
Our guest for today is João Paulo Pacífico, a Brazilian millionaire who's the CEO of the Grupo Gaia, Investments of Impact. João Paulo is a millionaire and the only Brazilian part of the global group proud to pay more.
And something really interesting is that in this interview, João Paulo makes a reference to Ingrid's work, saying that her book is fascinating and also talking about a wealth tax and a wealth cap, but now from the perspective of a super wealth person. So looking forward to hear that. João Paulo Pacífico, it's amazing to have you here with us on the Equals podcast. And to begin, I'm also Brazilian as you are, and I have seen a little bit of your history and the impact you have had on the investment world in the Brazilian scenario. So could you please tell us a little bit more about the Gaia Group and the Gaia Plus and how you're using them to transform social and environmental issues through investments?
Hi, thanks for having me here. First of all, sorry for my English, and if I'm not clear, just let me know. Yeah, thank you, Grazi. We understand in Grupo Gaia that we need to use the money for the real transformation in the world. So what we do, we create instruments in which we can use market, which is the capital markets, the financial market, to reduce the inequality, to tackle the climate change. And how can we do this? Creating new instruments in order to have a better world. We understand that the capital markets is usually used to exploit others, to increase the inequality, but we believe that we can do in another way. So, for instance, we were able to issue bonds in the capital markets to finance the largest social movement in the world, which is the MST, the Landless people here in Brazil. So we financed family farmers, cooperatives of family farmers, and many other projects. So we try to be a hacker in the capital markets in order to have a better world. So this is what we do in Grupo Gaia. And in Gaia Plus is another NGO that we run, and we are focusing on social and emotional development of children in vulnerable conditions and also in public school teachers and LGBT community. So we try to, how can we improve the social and emotional skills of those people that are suffering? So we try to, as a group, Grupo Gaia and Gaia Plus, we work to transform the system from inside out, using the power of the market and also use it through human values that we have with a long-term vision and understanding how the system works. Because we understand that we need to put the money in order to have a common good. Otherwise, we will not evolve as a civilization.
It's incredible, João, the work that you're leading on, especially the landless workers movement. I've been reading about it. You mentioned, that you're doing the work inside out, and most of our listeners will be familiar with the expression that you cannot dismantle the master's house with the master's tools. So do you really believe that the financial sector can be a force for equality? Because, given that it's one of the biggest instruments in generating mass inequality.
Yeah, I understand that we need to use the current system to try to fight against this system, and I'm completely understand the critique. And this traditional system has concentrated wealth, excluded populations, and speed up the climate crisis. So I'm completely aware that this is a huge problem, the current system. But I understand that we need to use this system against this system, but not alone. Of course, we need to have strong public policies, a strong state, fair regulation, tax justice, and also a just ecological transition. So I understand that I learned with MST, with the social movements, not just MST, but others, that we need to occupy those places. Of course, just ourselves will not be able to make a huge change, but we need to show the people that it's possible to change the current system. That's how many people says, the market must be in this way, but I don't believe on this. When we show the people that it's possible to have another kind of investment in which you can reduce inequality, and many people are going to come with us. I want to invest on this. So in short, we need to use the current system, but it's not enough. We also need to have the public policies and other ways in order to have a really better world, a real transformation as we want to have.
Totally agree. And João Paulo, you are a millionaire yourself. So normally people would say, if you have so much money, you can change the world yourself. What would you answer to them? And how are you trying to create systemic and lasting change?
Yeah, it's nice, this question, because of course I'm using great part of the wealth that I have accumulated during these years in order to have a better world. I'm also limited my wealth. I believe that we need to limit what we have, and but one person alone cannot make a huge change. But what I try to do in Gaia is to create ways in which everyone can make this transition to a better investment or a better philanthropy. But I understand that investment is something so important. So many people think that when you put your money in the bank, the money is still there. But no, when you put your money in the bank is going to do something with your money, and can be something that you do not agree. So we try to create instruments to make possible for the middle class to invest in something that they believe, the world that they want to have. So, for instance, when we allow people to invest from 1,000 reais, which is $200, and in an incredible project to finance a social movement, and they're going to receive the money back with a fair interest and also make this impact, we are creating a systematic change. So this is what we try to do. And also, I believe that we need to pressure the people who has money to do the same. And I try to walk the talk. So I have a strong position in the activism in the social media, and also a coherence in what we do in order to create this transformation that is so necessary in those days.
João, you've been talking about, that you're even limiting your own wealth. And we're aware of some of your work where you're calling for a wealth cap publicly. So how much do you believe is too much? And how do we convince, those above this cap to think the same way?
Yeah, it's very tough to say which is this number. And I think each person can have a different number. But I believe that it's not fair someone is a billionaire. There's no need to have a billionaire in a world with over 800 million people suffer for hunger. It's a moral failure as a society. I like Ingrid Robeyns, and she says about limitarianism. And there is a a sentence that she says, which is something like, there's nothing someone can do with 10 billion that they couldn't do with 10 million. So it's true. She says about 10 million euros or dollars. I think it's a fair value. There's no need to have 100 million, 200 million, 1 billion. I think it's worthless. So I believe that can be different from person to person, but it's not fair. And something that happens is that someone who has lots of money, they just make money doing nothing with their money. In the world that we live today, and even in Brazil, in which we have a Brazilian prime rate, the interest rates here in Brazil is so high that the poor people become even poorer and the richer people become richer without doing anything. So there is a transition of wealth happening here in our country, and I believe in many places of the world. So for me, there is no a magic number, but I'm sure that we need to limit the wealth that we have.
That's impressive. It's not easy to have a millionaire saying that. And because of that, I was thinking, what about other investors who are willing to invest with purpose? What would be your recommendations to them?
The first thing is they need to realize where their money is right now. So they need to go to their bank account, to the manager of their bank or the advisor and ask them, what are you doing with my money? Because it's clear for very few people. And when you realize that your money can be financing arms, can be financing deforestation, your money can be financing some companies that do not agree, you need to pressure the bank, the asset manager, or your advisor. So the first thing is the people realize that the money is not still in a bank. They are in some places. And then if the people start to understand that their money has a lot of power, then we can change the world. So in Brazil, what I see is very interesting because we are just allowed to bring professional investors to invest with us. And professional investor is someone that has more than 10 million reais, which is around $2 million. Well, when we were talking with professional investors, many of those investors are in the newspapers, are in the events, saying wonderful things. But then when you ask them to invest in something that's going to make change, they do not invest. Their investments is in an old way. When we were allowed to offer our investments to the middle class, it was incredible. We had some bonds that we issue that in some minutes it was completely invested. So it was incredible. And I see right now that the middle class are more aware of the impact of their investments, are more aware of the problems that we have in the world, because the super rich people are talking about climate change, but they are not willing to change their behaviors. And which is crazy. If you go to some impact investments events all over the world, there are many greenwashing. It's ridiculous because those banks are investing in fossil fuels and deforestation and in companies that are very bad for the world. And all of the big banks and many of the people that talks about impact investing are investing in those companies. And we cannot accept that.
It's incredible to hear you say these things, João, especially for me, someone that works on climate. You know, for Oxfam, we have been saying for a very long time that the richest are responsible for the climate crisis in terms of, you know, their consumption, their lifestyle. But more than that, actually, their investment, where we have shown, you know, an average, let's say, billionaire emits, you know, more than 1 million times than the average someone in the bottom 90% of humanity. So the work that you're doing is really, really critical for us. So when you're talking about issues of, you know, tackling inequality, on fair taxation, on wealth cap, what feedback do you get from other CEOs, you know, from other super wealthy people who hear you speak on these issues?
Yeah, it's a kind of it's a silence. I really feel quite alone in those places because, it's a very few people understand and would accept to have less privilege that they have. So it's much easier talk than do. So as I told before, I see in the middle class a much better understanding of the problems that we have than in the wealthy class. We can see many, and many people think that if they donate $100, it's okay, and then it's okay. They can do whatever they want. Just if they just donate a little small micro part of their wealth, and then and many times they donate for something with their name in that, just to make a greenwashing or something like that. So it's ridiculous. So I truly believe that the change is going to be in the middle class.
We live in a world of extreme inequality, and the majority of the population is in a really, really bad position. But you are coming out on the top. You could just say, I'm on a good position. I want to remain here and I want to keep accumulating. But you're doing the opposite. You're saying, I'm limiting my wealth. I'm willing to change the situation. Why? Why is this so important to you? Why are you doing this work? Why are you willing to limit your wealth?
Yeah, because I think this gives me a life meaning. And if you have compassion, you don't have any other choice. You cannot ignore the inequality, the suffering, the destruction, and you cannot ignore the hunger of the people. So I came from middle class, and I could accumulate something in my work, and then I realized that I don't need so much to live a good life. And right now I try to put my money and my skills, my abilities, in order to have a better world. And the time that we are going to live here is so short, so small. We are going to be dead, and we will not have anything when we are out of this planet. So why not using what I have in order to contribute to something bigger than me, to a really better world? I don't see any other way to live without being a good person. And you cannot have a true happiness in a collapsing world. When we see what is happening, the huge inequality, the poverty, it's very sad. It's very sad. So if someone understands this and have a little of compassion, I'm sure that we can create new ways of living for the new generations and even for our generations. I have 2 daughters, and I would love that they can have a better world, but I don't see it. I see a world in which a few people are trying to convince others that they are better than others and they deserve this huge amount of money. And at the same time, many people are being killed and without any food, without water, in the wars. So this living in this way makes my life more meaningful, and I'm more happier living this way, really.
Those are really powerful words, João. Thank you so much. A couple of months ago, I think President Lula da Silva, unveiled, which I would assume is his presidential campaign for next year, focusing on, taxing the richest. What do you think about that? Are you hopeful to see, a strong change within Brazil?
I hope so. Yeah, it's completely necessary. It's an important fight of Lula and also Haddad, which is the Minister of Economic of Brazil, and which is kind of crazy because it's so important. But the tax rate that they are proposing is 10% a year for the super rich, which is really low, and they are having a lot of difficulty in approving it. So just 10%, if you take a middle class, is going to pay 27.5%. And you can see how difficult it's being for Lula and Haddad to approve it. In the future, I really hope that it's going to increase, because there is no sense of a public teacher pays more taxes than a super rich in our country. There's no sense on it. But it's an important fight of Lula and Haddad, and I hope that they're going to approve real soon.
Well, me too. It takes a lot of courage to say that we really need to tax the super rich from people, from governments. And speaking on courage, maybe some of the people who are listening to us don't know MST, the MST movement that you said at the beginning of this episode, that you created specific kind of bonds to support them. So since I'm Brazilian, I know the big resistance there is against this social movement. Could you explain a little bit more how hard and how much courage you had to have to start these kind of investments for them?
Yeah. When I got in touch with them, I understand how much MST works. And then I realized the wonderful work that they are doing. And then when I see something and I really have compassion, and I'm not a special person because I have compassion. It's just something that is inside me and inside many people in the world. I thought I need to help those people. I need to help those cooperatives. And then we work very hard to have it. I had many personal problems on it, many haters in the social media, which is, for me, right now, it's a kind of easy to deal with. But I have really problems in the out of the social media, because the people start to say that I'm a terrorist, I'm gonna support those guys, but I don't have a choice. And the courage is not to live without fear, is to live although you have fear, is to act although you have fear, and then there is no choice for me. It's bigger than me, this willing to do this kind of thing when I see a kind of injustice. And this is why we are very close to them. I have visited dozens of places in Brazil of MST. I have very good friends right now. But of course, when you see the parents of the kids of the friends of my daughters, many people had really problems in the social aspect for me. But it's the price that I pay to do this kind of work.
Very inspiring, João. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thanks, Naf. Thanks, Grazi. Well, it's an honor to be here. It's the Oxfam work. It's really impressive, and I many times I use the numbers and the information that you bring, and count on me as a ally here in Brazil. And let's make the world better. Let's tax the rich. Let's tell the people that we don't need to have billionaires in the world, and you need to tackle the climate change. It's very urgent, and we need to do something today. We cannot wait until tomorrow. We need to act today.
Agreed. Thank you so much, João.
Agreed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was a huge pleasure for me to be here.
What an interesting and hopeful interview. What stood up for you, Naf?
Grazie. This interview left me feeling hopeful, but it also made me reflect, deeply on a crucial question. How much money is too much money? The idea of limiting extreme wealth might sound obvious to some and perhaps radical to others, but we're living in a world, where extreme inequality is, I feel like, accelerating, no? And the world will have its first trillionaire soon. Imagine, trillionaire. And we have to ask ourselves, is the world truly, in a better place because of this kind of obscene inequality? Because poverty is worsening, social inequality is widening across the board, and also the environmental destruction, is linked to this growth in extreme wealth. So while listening to João, I kept thinking, what kind of world do we want to live in? I hope we all want a world where, everyone has access to food, health, education, and a healthy environment. So I was thinking we should oppose a world defined by such staggering inequality, a world where we celebrate the existence of billionaires and trillionaires.
Absolutely. With an economy that is good for everyone and for the planet, and not only for a few. And this interview with João Paulo also made me very hopeful, because he is an example of someone who is going directly to one of the main roots of inequality, the financial sector, and creating mechanisms to make it more decent by directing investments to good causes and trying to make money work in a way that reduces inequality instead of increasing.
That's a powerful way to put it, Grazie. I completely agree. That's it for this month's content on private wealth. You can go back and listen to both our first interview with Ingrid, as well as our bonus episode with Sarah and Sanam on the inequality at the heart of peace negotiations. Stick around for next month, when we will be discussing climate and inequality ahead of COP30.
Yeah, so next month you're going to hear from the fascinating Sarah Finch on how people can take on fossil fuels giants and win. And we will also hear from climate activist Marinel Ubaldo on the cost of climate inaction for countries like her own, the Philippines.
If you found this episode interesting, help us spread the word. Subscribe, share it, and join the conversation.
And don't forget to sign up for our amazing newsletter at equals.inc.
Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, and see you next time.